Okay. This is episode number 17 of the podcast. We didn't film at all in January because Blaze got stuff going on. I had stuff going on. And January we're trying to wrap up hunting season. And then now we're in February. Today's actually February the 1st. And we're rolling. Should be pretty good. We got a microphone now, so I'm hoping my audio is better. You can see it right there. I'm hoping my audio is a little bit better this time. But anyway, so today's topic, we're not going to be filming super long because we don't really have a whole lot to talk about today. But we just wanted to film an episode.
And I'm tired.
Yeah, and Blaze is tired, and so am I. Because actually, I'm not going to say that, but let's see. Let me get my notes going here. So actually, before we start talking about that, the last podcast we filmed was, let's see, go to Anchor. The last podcast we filmed episode was that, I think. So if you want to listen to it just by chance, it was episode number 16, and the title of that episode was "What happened to Blaze? What stopped Blaze from hunting and new ways to shoot deer?" So just any of y'all that are curious, Blaze's house.
Not include fire.
Yeah, that's when we were talking about the fire. Blaze's house is burning down. That's when we're talking about shooting deer with pistols. But here the description is today Blaze shares his story of his house burning down. Morgan tells Blaze about hunting deer with pistols, and I talk about deer hunting with a shotgun. But also during that, Blaze was talking about his new guns that he got. Because he got, what'd you get, like a Glock and one other thing, a Glock and 2 rifles?
Yeah, I got a few. Got 30-30, 270, 243, and a Glock.
That's good. So if you want to look at that podcast, I will put the link to it in the description for both the YouTube and the Spotify links. And hopefully this year, as we progress throughout the year and get bigger, we're going to have more people on here, more guests, bigger guests. But anyhow, so that's some of the things that we're going to be trying to do this year. We're going, as we go further into this year and further into the spring season, which we're in right now, we're just starting. Usually February for me and Blaze is when we start looking forward to the spring, thinking about spring fishing. Because
pre-spawn.
Yeah, pre-spawn, which is actually the topic of today's episode, is how to fish this pre-spawn. But like in October, November, December, January, that's like in October through December, it's deer hunting. All deer hunting, a little bit of fishing here and there. And then January, it's some deer hunting, but primarily duck hunting for me. I know Blaze does a lot of deer hunting as well. But in February, it's crappie, bass. I don't know what just happened there, why that just lagged like that. But and then in March, and April, and May, it's all bass fishing. I do some turkey hunting, but Georgia turkey hunting sucks in a lot of places. It's good in a lot of places, but it's bad in other spots. And a lot of the places that I hunt are terrible. But anyhow, back to what we're talking about today. Blaze, if you want to say anything, I know Blaze has got something he's going to talk about today as well. If you want to go ahead and share that, you can start, or we can do that at the end, whatever you want to do.
You already brought up pre-spawn, so we can start on that.
Yeah, okay, we'll just get started on that. All right. So one of the bullet points, or one of the things that I find, like, now before I start, if you fish a lot of ponds, most of these things apply to you. I would say probably 95% of them apply to you, but me and Blaze, we fish lakes as well, not just ponds, but lakes too. So we're gonna be talking about both lakes and ponds. If you're a creek fisherman, I don't know anything about creek fishing the pre-spawn. I have no clue. So this podcast is probably not gonna help you.
Or
Um,
river. Like,
Do what?
I mean, I've fished
Hmm.
the Flint River a couple times, but I don't like know anything about it. I just go out there and like
Anyway, you can unmute yourself if you want to. So anyway, one of the bullet points that I have and that I found, and something that a lot of people I think question is where are they positioned in the pre-spawn? And something I want to bring up about the pre-spawn about where they're positioned. When you're fishing the pre-spawn right now, and as we progress further into February and early March, those fish are going to be going shallow, they're going to be going warm and are going deep. And that happens when it warms up and when it cools down. Something that is important to note about where they're going to be positioned during the pre-spawn is water temperature.
Yep.
And not just water temperature, but also the weather, because like the weather plays a major, I think, in the whole entire, my opinion, and the entire year of fishing, like from January to December, and the pre-spawn is when the weather plays the biggest role, the pre-spawn and spawn. The reason for that is because these fish, they're getting ready to spawn, they're getting ready to do their thing. Right now they're not like locked up on the banks, obviously because the spawn is a long ways away. It's a month and a half from now. But these fish, they're starting to think about it. It's in the back of their minds, like, hey, the water, it's not warming up yet, but the we have done fed all we want to. It's gotten cold, like it's gotten cold. And usually when it gets really, really cold, that means the spawn, obviously it's not about to happen, but that means it's getting close. Because December it'll be cold, January it gets really cold, and then February it gets cold, but there's also more warm days. So
yeah, and they're gonna want to hold to heat. So like if there's like rocky points or stuff like that.
yep. Blaze, I think you went muted again.
I don't know what's wrong with my mute. It's my first time using Zoom on my phone. And it's
By the way,
acting
that's
weird.
why it's just a singular picture of Blaze.
Is there just a picture on there?
Yes. Hold on. No. Put it back. I want to send you a picture. It was hilarious. It's cracking me up. Can you put it? Okay, hold on. Hold on. I want to send you a picture of this. It's hilarious. But anyway, Blaze made a good point about the rock and everything. So like in February, it's cold. Right now in Georgia, it's really not that cold right now. Because like I said, in February here in Georgia, the days start warming up. They're not like getting the 70s and the 80s, obviously, because it's still winter, but there you have those more 60, 65-degree days. Compared to like December and January, where it's like 40s and 60s. You can still have 40s in February, but you have more of the high 60s in February. Anyway, so where are they going to be positioned? In the spawn, you're going to have fish. I got to back up some. You're going to have fish that are in like I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. You're going to have fish that are going to be like really thinking about spawning, and then you're going to have fish that are still like in that I don't want to think anything about spawning. So those two categories of fish. In the really thinking about spawning, that the second week of March fish, which is in February, those fish, they're going to be, they're going to be positioning on those shallow flats, close to deep water. And then the fish that are still in that hard winter pattern, they're going to be offshore on a point somewhere in 25 foot of water. So right now in pre-spawn, I would say you'd be able to catch them in deep and shallow water. It's just however you really want to do it right
Yeah.
now. The pre-spawn and then the
I would say
post-spawn
the-
are times when you can catch them in shallow and deep water. Did you say something,
And
Blaze?
yeah, I would say for pre-spawn, probably the most underrated bait would be a topwater walking bait.
Huh?
I would say the most underrated bait for pre-spawn would be a topwater walking bait.
In the winter?
Yes, like right before the spawn, when they're like wanting to feed up really big.
Oh yeah. So like super late pre-spawn mid-March.
Yeah, like late pre-spawn, like right at the end of it. Not right now,
Yeah,
but
obviously.
once you get closer to the spawn, but make sure you do it right before they spawn, because once they're on the bed, it'll be a lot harder to get them to commit to that.
Yeah, and we're gonna in this podcast we're gonna break down the whole thing from beginning to end. So I want to make a point. Obviously, myself, I'm a big shallow water fisherman. You know, I know a little bit about deep fishing, and this year we got some graphs and whatnot coming that are gonna hopefully help me and my grandfather fishing deep. Because that's something that you need to know how to do, especially in the summertime and wintertime. But right now, I'm a shallow water fisherman. Always have been and always will be a shallow water fisherman. So knowing how to catch them shallow in the wintertime and the pre-spawn is really, really important. And where can you catch them shallow? And I'm going to talk about ponds and lakes. I'm going to try to put those together in this. Most cases for lakes, when you're catching them shallow, Blaze, you're muted again. I'm going to ask you, I want to see if it'll unmute on its own. When you're catching them shallow in the wintertime, or when you want to catch them shallow in the wintertime, a flat, like a shallow flat with probably 8 to 10 to 15 foot of water. And I know that doesn't sound shallow, but you're not going to go pull up on a bank and catch them in 2 foot of water right now. It's just not going to happen until like the first to second week of March. And we're in the first, it is literally the first day of February right now. So when you're catching them shallow, 8 to 10 to 15, about the deepest you want to go as far as shallow water goes. Okay. But it's just when you're fishing shallow water in the wintertime, it needs to be in between 8 to 10 feet of 8 to 10 to 15 feet of water. You're just not going to catch them in 5 feet or less. I have caught them between 6 and 8 feet of water, but you're not going to catch them like dirt shallow. That's just really not how that works. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some of y'all have. Let me know, some of you guys that are fishing out on the lakes or in the ponds, let me know. And something I would suggest to you pond fishermen this time of year, get you a kayak. If you can get a kayak would be great.
Yes.
Because here's why. But when you're fishing on that kayak, when you have a kayak on a pond, it allows you to, number one, to get into more places you can't fish without a kayak, and number two, you can fish in places like that are really, really, really big on the pre-spawn. So like if you got a kayak, if you want to catch them shallow, that day you can catch them shallow. If you want to catch them deep, that day you can catch them deep. And you can get a kayak for like $200. It may not be the best kayak, but for a month, I think it'll do fine, personally. So when you're catching them shallow during this time of year, 8 to 10 to 15 feet of water, in my opinion, down here in Georgia on West Point, Harding, Eufaula, those are the 3 main lakes that I fish, are your best bet. And it's always good when you can get a brush pile on that flat. And something else that's important when you're fishing shallow this time of year is to fish close to deep water. So like when you're fishing shallow, make sure deep water is within 100 to 200 yards of where you're fishing. So like if you got like a cove and then there's a really sharp point right there next to it, perfect. If you got a cove that's like got a big flat running across it, that's good. Or something that's even better is if you can get on a point This is really common on West Point. West Point Lake has got a lot of points, like long points. If you can get on that point, and fish in between that shallow water marker and the bank, and fish from that shallow water marker up to about 8 feet of water. Because I think on a lot of the spots out here in West Point, the shallow water marker is going to start about 12 feet of water normally. Some spots are different, but normally they're going to start from about 12 feet of water and obviously go to the bank. You want to fish between that shallow water marker and then 8 feet of water. And it's really, really good when you get a brush pile out there, because those fish got something to relate to. They got structure to go to when it gets cold. And then when the spawn gets closer, first, second week of March, they're right there at it and they can go to it. No problem. So.
And when you said if you've got a point with a drop off, that would be a good spot to fish. Pull like a rattle trap or something fast and loud over those points.
Man, rip that thing, throw that thing from the deep to the shallow, from shallow to deep, throw it across the brush pile, reel that rattle trap, chatterbait, crankbait over the brush pile. Let me tell you, this time of year, you're gonna have fish that want to react, because like a lot of people don't know that this time of year is one of the best times to get fish to eat a moving bait. Chatterbaits, crankbaits, and lipless crankbaits, and a jerkbait. I guess a jerkbait, you can make it a jerkbait is a very, very slow moving bait, but it is still considered a moving bait. Any of those moving baits are like deadly this time of year. Chatterbaits, rattle traps, crankbaits.
It's slow moving until you start using it like Kevin Van Dam.
Do what?
I said it's jerkbait's a slow moving bait until you start using it like Kevin Van Dam.
Yeah. I mean, he snaps the crap out of that thing. So something I wanted to bring up, what if you can't catch them shallow? Like, what if you just cannot, maybe it's still too cold for them fish to go up shallower. Because like this time of year, it can be really cold and they'll still be out deep. The 1st of February, 2nd week of February, even the 3rd week of February can be some of the coldest times of the year. Normally, on average, they're starting to warm up, starting to have warmer days, but it can still be some of the coldest times of the year. I've seen it. Last year, Texas literally got like 1.5 feet of snow in February. I think it was February. It was like the coldest it's ever been. Blaze, do you remember that out in Texas and Louisiana? And it was like in the negatives for a week.
Oh yeah.
There were some people on Fishbrain that really were like, they lost power for several weeks from that. Do you remember that?
Yep. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. Noah Gamanchi, I think is his name. He lost power for, I know who the guy is. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. But he lost power for like weeks, and February can be some of the coldest times of the year. So if you can't catch them shallow, something to note that's very important about catching them deep. It's kind of the opposite of what I just said about catching them shallow. When you're catching them shallow, you want to fish shallow with deep water nearby, but this time fish deep with shallow water nearby. So if you got like a shallow water marker, fish on the other side of that shallow water marker. Fish on that from like the 12 foot to the 25 to 30 to 40 to 50 foot. And I know 50 feet sounds crazy, like deep to catch a bass, but let me tell you, those big bass will sit in 50 foot of water in a ditch. I've never caught them like that because I don't have the grass to really do that yet. But I heard and seen people do it. And my grandfather actually went on a guide trip one day. They caught crappie in 50 foot of water. Big crappie in 50 foot of water. Like crappie as big as a computer screen in 50 foot of water. They took a little jig and dropped it down there. Blaze, it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
like, can you imagine catching a crappie in 50 foot of water? That's ridiculous.
The only crappie I've caught was out of a pond, which is like 4 foot.
Yeah, I've caught them on West Point, before, and like.
You imagine fighting a fish for 50 feet?
Yeah, it's incredible. But those fish, when it gets cold enough, they will go back out to that deep water, and they will be in that deep water until it warms up some. I know for some of y'all, for some of the Tennessee guys, Kentucky, that water is still in the 40s. And when that water's in the 40s and the high 30s in some situations, those fish are not even thinking about spawning until March. Like in February here in Georgia, South Georgia, middle South Georgia, me and Blaze live in middle South Georgia. We're not in like the deep South Georgia, but we're in middle South Georgia. They're thinking about spawning like right now. Like it's in the back of their head. They're like, okay, it's February. Obviously, they don't know it's February, but they know that the coldest month, the long lasting cold is about to be over with, and so it's time to start thinking about spawning. The eggs are starting to develop inside the bass. Right now, if you go catch a female largemouth or spot, it's going to be really fat because the eggs are starting to fill up in them. Anyway, but when you're fishing deep, think of fall fishing or early winter fishing. Fish deep with shallow water accessible. So yeah, it's just important this time of year to think. It can be the pre-spawn can be hard fishing. It can be really hard. I've had some really, really bad days, and I've had some really, really good days. I actually, I'll show y'all a fish that I caught, Blaze. I think you've seen this one before. I caught it back in February last year. It's like an
Probably.
8-pounder.
Oh yeah.
I caught in February. Let's see if this will let me do this. Let's see. I'll airdrop it to my MacBook. Blaze, while I'm doing this, you can talk for a second.
I don't do a whole lot of pre-spawn fishing on big lakes other than like off points. So I don't know really what to talk about. I'm listening.
Well, you can talk to them about like ponds.
Yeah, I would say ponds. Throw a lot of cover, or throw near a lot of cover, because a lot of times you don't have that deep 20 foot of water like Morgan's talking about. So if you like have a dam on your pond, and if you're in a kayak or something like Morgan said, get about 50 feet away from that dam, throw a jig up near the bank and drop it down. And as it gets deeper, they'll pick it up by stumps or brush, anything down there that they can hold to.
Yep. It's just this time of year, I guess you could fish how you want to fish, like we were telling you, throw rattle traps, throw crankbaits, and everything. If you want to fish with a freaking
moving.
Do what?
The fish are moving. That's really that's the main point.
Yeah, like they're moving. It's not letting me airdrop, but they're moving. Like that's just what they're doing.
I mean, I caught a ton on a black and red spinnerbait last year. This time,
spinnerbaits are a key thing too. That's something we should have mentioned with spinnerbaits.
Spinnerbaits and like colors are a huge deal in spinnerbaits because depends on the water clarity and the pond or lake you're fishing. Like West Point's gonna need like a white or chartreuse, something brighter with silver blades. But the ponds I fish use like a black and blue or black and red with gold Colorado blades.
Yeah. Okay, it's not letting me airdrop for whatever reason, but I caught an 8-pounder last year fishing the pre-spawn. I actually caught that one in a pond, and to the pond guys watching this, what I was doing it was a bigger pond, but I was fishing on the dam side. I wasn't fishing on the dam. I was fishing probably 250 yards up from the dam, maybe 300. But the thing about that lake, Blaze, you've been there. It's really wooded in that section, and it like drops off, and it does all the way to the dam.
It is deep.
Yeah, it's that side's quite deep, and the thing was there's structure out in that section that I was dragging my bandito bug through, and it come through there.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're talking about. I caught quite a few off a jig in the fall there.
it come through there and it went thump. So now the funny thing was I was actually on the phone with somebody and I was using a Shimano and what do they call them? Like not an Antares. It wasn't real like that. It was a Bantam, really old reel. It was so funny. And I had like 15-pound line on because I didn't have anything to string it up with. And like when that thing come up and jumped, I thought it was like a 10-pounder. And I was like, oh my God, it's gonna snap this line. I got 15-pound line on here, bigger wired hook, and a heavy rod. I was like, oh, it's gonna snap. Cause I was not even, that was the first fish I'd caught all day long. I was like, it's not, because like I felt thump and I said, oh, there's a bite, whatever. And so I went and snatched and I thought I had a log, and then I felt that my rod started bumming. Oh my God. And so I went and saw his come up jump, and my line got wrapped around a bush. So like, oh, he's gonna come off. There's no way whatsoever. And that was the biggest fish that I caught until May, because I caught a 10-pounder on a bed. So yeah, it's just important to find structure where the fish are going to be. And on that day, it was kind of warm and it was kind of cloudy. It was warm and it was actually very cloudy. It wasn't like warm, but it was in the high 50s, low 60s, and it was cloudy. And when it's like that in the pre-spawn, 9 times out of 10, them fish are going to be looking to chase a meal. Those fish are going to be active. So on days
And a
like
big
that, when it's
meal.
cloudy or something, you can catch them on shad lures. You can catch them on crawfish lures. Something else is important to note. Anytime in the pre-spawn, anytime whatsoever, you can catch them on a crawfish colored lure. Any kind of crankbaits
Absolutely.
in a red lure, do it.
I said absolutely. A red, anything crawfish imitating, even if it's like not imitating, if it's swimming, but if it's crawfish colors, they will eat it.
Yeah. And like, you're throwing your shad patterns from all the way in the fall, January. That's all great. Shad patterns work so freaking well. I mean, like, why would they not work? That's bass's main forage is a shad. In most cases, and big lakes and some ponds, it's shad. But they seem to, this time of year, that water's so cold, because it's been hard winter all year, and those fish they're just not wanting to chase bait, especially on like a bright sunny day. They're just not wanting to chase bait. A bright sunny day is when that crawfish pattern is going to do so well. It's incredible. I've seen it work.
Oh, and
Go ahead.
one thing back to when you said cloudy days, for pond fishermen, on a cloudy pond day, I would say, like, if it's a small enough pond where you can like circle it and cover most of the pond, you just fish it everywhere. A soft bodied swim bait, like a bigger one, like a mini mag draft or something like that, where you're going 4 to 8 inches and fishing one of those paddle tail swim baits real slow.
Yeah, because those bass, they'll still eat shad this year. Like throwing a little swim bait, like on a big lake or something, like on a reservoir, throwing a little swim bait, because the shad are dying this time of year. It's a shad kill. The water gets so cold that the shad literally die off. And the shad spawn goes on from May all through May. They start getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And those big ones, usually they make it through the year, but those small ones, the thread fins and everything, they're going to make it. But those small little shad that are about like that, they're going to die in January and February. And so if you can go out on one of them points and take a little swim jig, or in your pond even, anywhere that's got a shad, you can take a little swim jig, swim bait. Blaze is talking big. I'm going to talk small in this instance. Big or small, it doesn't matter. You can catch them you can still catch them on a shad pattern. Just the crawfish pattern is really good because those fish, they're on the bottom, they're down there, and a lot of cases when they're in deep water, that and some shallow water cases, it same too. They're going to be eating crawfish a lot, but they still have not quit eating shad. They're still going to eat shad. It's not going to stop.
Yep.
But there was another point I was going to bring up, and I forgot what it was. I don't forgot. Bad gum. Let me look back through my notes. Oh yeah. So we covered weather position. We covered shallow deep. We covered what I need to throw. So what weather is going to make them go deep and shallow? Now we talked about it some, we didn't, but like I want to talk about it in depth because Blaze, I know when me and you were fishing, we were that day when we went in May, it wasn't the pre-spawn at all. It was the post-spawn actually. No, that's off topic.
It
But
was the post spawn, but that was just a terrible day altogether.
yeah,
Like not just the fishing, like it was super humid, but not that hot. Everything was sticky and slow. No wind, no clouds, bluebird sky.
it wasn't Blaze. It was like raining when we went. Remember
Which day are you talking about?
when me and you went to that lake and it was when we were fishing those Drift Squad products.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, I was doing something else for a sec. I did not. I was talking about West Point. I thought you were still talking about the points and post spawn there.
No, we're still talking about it. I was just trying to make a point about the weather.
Oh,
Now I was thinking to bring up something about post spawn. It's off topic, but my point will be made just a second. But what I was getting at though is like that day, it was cloudy, it was rainy, and those fish were up shallow. We got
oh
bites.
yeah. When you're
Shallow.
talking about when we went to that pond.
Yeah, when we went to that lake. We caught the fish shallow that day, which we didn't catch a lot of fish at all. Like I only caught one. I missed a bunch and I broke off like twice. Blaze fell in, I fell in. It was ridiculous. But funny thing was I had actually caught like a 10-pounder the like 4 days before. And so I called Blaze. I'm like, hey, you got to get up here, dude. It's insane. And so of course he
and
comes.
then we go and I caught like 2 1-pounders and you caught one tiny one.
He comes all the way from Thomaston. I live in LaGrange. They're like an hour apart. He comes all the way from Thomaston. I'm like, bro, you got to get up here. Dude, it's ridiculous.
And the fish
And he shows up
sucked.
and he's like, all right, let's go catch him. I'm like, I think we're going to get him, dude. Bring a jig, a swim bait, and a frog. And a
Bro, I
truck
brought
worm.
everything. I had a backpack and I was ready to throw whatever.
And that day it was cloudy. It was rainy. I said, look, these fish are going to be shallow. It's going to work. When it gets cloudy and rainy like that, those fish, they're going to go shallow normally, unless
But
the
it didn't
water, if the
help
water's
getting
super
dropped
cold, they're
off.
still going to stay deep. But like,
It didn't help getting dropped off under that bridge and
do what?
getting soaking wet walking through the woods.
Oh no, it was ridiculous. We'll have to make a whole nother podcast about that, dude. It was insane. That's a whole
yeah.
nother topic for another podcast, which we'll make eventually. Heck, it may be the next one. I don't know. But anyway, the rain that day, the fish were shallow because it was raining, it was windy, and the pressure was low. This time of year, that is something to look at. Like it's important when you're fishing the pre-spawn, to pay attention to the weather. Because it'll tell you if those fish are going to be deep or shallow. They're like that day, the pressure was low. So I kind of knew, I had the idea in the back of my head. I said, look, Blaze, the fish are going to be shallow. And they were definitely shallow. I didn't catch but one. I got a whole bunch more bites. I just sucked that day.
On the DS worm.
Yeah, a product that never was released. Well, no, it was released. Did we release that?
Sadly.
Yeah.
Released it.
That's a whole nother podcast again, dude. So me and Blaze got a lot of stories. We'll have to talk about that later. We'll have to make a whole nother podcast about that. But anyway.
Can you believe we met like on Fishbrain? I saw like your post and I was like, oh, that's pretty close to where I live.
Yep.
That's crazy.
But anyway, so we'll have to film a whole other podcast about the stories we got. But like that day, I was like, Blaze are gonna be shallow, and they were definitely shallow. And then I actually went back not the next day, but like 3 or 4 days later. And it was hot and it was sunny, bluebird sky, pressure was high as all get out, and they were deep. I knew they were going to be deep. And that's how it works. When this time of year, you can still catch them shallow when the sun's up, when the sun's out and the pressure's high. but the bite is just so much better out deep. Those fish, they're not going to be like, if the water's warmer, the 50s, they're not going to be super, super deep, but they're going to be like in 15 to 20 foot of water. Like Blaze said a minute ago, like me and Blaze said a minute ago, when you're fishing the pre-spawn, you just got to go fishing. Like, I can sit here, me and Blaze can sit here, and you can listen to us go on about the pre-spawn all you want to. I can tell you what to throw. We can tell you where to fish.
Just
but
go out there and fish hard.
Like, it doesn't matter, I can tell you everything, and that's what, like, just go fishing, man. I don't care what time of season it is, what time of year it is. Like, if it's the daggum spawn, that's a little bit more, you can tell somebody about that a little bit more. Go throw a white Strike King rage bug on a bed. That's one thing. But like, when it comes to deep water fishing, shallow water fishing, pre-spawn, post-spawn, fall bite, there's nothing you can't tell anybody how to go do that. You just got to go fishing. Like, every day is going to be different in the pre-spawn.
Yeah, you can give tips and pointers, but when they get out there, it's going to be their own ball game.
Do what?
I said you can give as many tips and pointers as you want, but when they get out there to fish, it's going to be their own ball game.
Yeah, same like that, Blaze. That is a great point, because like, I've been told so much crap, and I say it's crap. Like, it's really good information, but like, I get out there, I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to work. I go there and try it. It don't work. It just does not work some days. Like,
but it might work the next day.
Yeah, it might work the next day.
You never know.
Like, it's stuff changes. Fish are their own selves. We're idiots trying to catch them, spending too much money on it, getting yelled at our girlfriends or something. I saw a post about that, Blaze. It was what I got that from what I read you earlier today.
Yeah, I'm like, girlfriends. Neither of us have girlfriends, but okay.
Do what?
I was gonna say neither of us have that, but okay.
Yeah, but still, like, you get the point. Like, spending way too much money on it. Just idiots out here trying to catch something that's their own thing. You can sit here and predict it all you want to, but like, when it comes down to it, man, just go fishing. Just go fishing. Like, there's nothing else I can tell you. It's ridiculous. By the way, me and Blaze, none of us have girlfriends. That was just a joke, because I know a lot of guys that get fussed at by their girlfriends because they go fishing too much and they spend too much money. Anyway, I was going to say, oh yeah, so another good pre-spawn time, another good pre-spawn point. So I think we've covered the early pre-spawn, first, second, the third week of February. But I want to talk about like the last couple days in February, the first week of March, the second week of March, like right before, like one more cold front, one full moon before they go on the bed. Like, the next full moon, they're hitting the beds. That when did I catch the 8-pounder? I think that 8-pounder was the second week. Yeah, it was February the 14th. It was Valentine's Day, actually. That is that's mid pre-spawn, but like, I went this year or last year. I went to Eufaula, and it was the last week, like, right. Those fish were so close to going on bed. They were 10 yards, like, they were making the beds. Like, the females hadn't even got up there. The males, they were on them. They were already on them, because I caught several of them that had bloody tails and everything. But the females, they hadn't got up there yet. I was throwing a chatterbait at Eufaula, and man, we were smoking them. We were catching a lot of big females. We weren't catching the big ones, like the females in that 2.5 to 1 foot of water. We weren't catching them in that shallow. We were catching the females in about 8 to 6 feet of water, right before they were sitting, like, they were in the cove they're going to spawn in, but they hadn't like actually went to the banks. Like, they hadn't turned left or right and started swimming towards their beds. They hadn't started looking for a bed yet. They're right there. The next day, basically, they're going to start moving up. We were catching them on chatterbaits that day. We were just smoking them. And that was something important. We were looking for the right grass. Pre-spawn fishing, grass is important too. If you got grass on your lake, finding grass is important. So yeah, it's just like I said, important to talk about. you can do whatever you want to. Me and Blaze can tell you anything about it, but to whatever. So I don't know how long we've been filming. Maybe 20. How long we've been filming? Blaze, have you been keeping
Been
up
like
with it?
40 minutes.
Oh, dang. Because I forgot to set a timer.
Yeah.
We were only gonna do about 30, but I guess we'll just have to be what it is. So anyway, hope y'all enjoyed this podcast. Hope y'all enjoyed the mic. Let me know for the ones that are listening on YouTube and watching on YouTube. Let us know in the comment section down below if that mic helped. And we're going to be getting some more people on the podcast this year, some bigger names, to talk more about fishing. So anyway, thank y'all for watching the show today, and we'll catch y'all in the next episode.